making things out of clay, just like the guy from Primitive Technology. We're off on a motorcycle ride, if we can survive it, and at the end, we'll end up at a reservoir full of mud. This reservoir! But Keon keeps sticking his street bike places where it's not meant to go, which means it breaks. That rattle, clearly a sign of wheel bearings on their very last legs. So Keon had to get himself off to a CF Moto garage while I continued the rest of the adventure on me lonesome. Half a second of tears, and then I got on with life. Right, for those of you that don't know, Primitive Technology is a very successful YouTube channel where a lovely Australian chap gets himself out into the bush and makes stuff like what cavemen did. Get yourself over there and subscribe. Bloody awesome. So that's my plan. We're doing that today. We're going to jump over that little stream there, head around on the right hand side where it's dry, and then get between the two hills. Look at this very professional graphic. You can see it's very wet and muddy, which hopefully means there's a good amount of clay. If we can get through here, we're going to take a right and get up near the tree line somewhere and pitch the old tent there. It's a good spot because just round the corner there's an area I like to call the dirt box, which is where I'm hoping to find some clay. Yeah, I'm one of those people who has these ideas. I like an adventure, and I like to learn new things by doing them, and kind of the joy of discovery is all part of the fun. But I'm also one of those people that very easily falls into the trap of naysaying and finding reasons not to do stuff. You know, like, oh, well, yeah, that sounds great, but the fire probably won't be hot enough to fire your clay. Or, oh yeah, no, that'll be great, but there's no way the clay in the lake is as good as the clay in the shop. And all of those things may be true, but I try very hard to kind of ignore or silence those inner voices, inner demons, I call them, and just get on with it. Sometimes the secret is to just do it. A la that one famous shoe company. Forget their name right now. But yeah, learn by doing, and the key word there is doing. So here we go. We're at Baipenju. It's a lake created by damming several rivers, and it's a great spot. I love it. A lot of fun going there. The views are nice, and despite not being that far from the road, you do feel really quite removed from the modern day and other people. I pitched my tent right next to this. It looks like some poor bird had met its fate here, and I was hoping whatever caused it to meet its fate wasn't going to attack me. But I came laden up with tools to cope with any eventuality, and I guess that is where I differ from the dude on the Primitive Technology channel, because he makes everything by hand, or using tools that he's made by hand. And I just get the one day at the weekend off from work and dad duties, so I didn't have the luxury of time to start making an axe out of twigs or whatever it is he does. So I brought my tools. Anyway, we got straight on with making a fire because it was a very chilly day. Bit of firewood, and you see how dry stuff is here. It's crazy brittle. We are right at the end of winter, and winter is the dry season here, so it hasn't rained for a good while, and it certainly helps me understand why there's so many signs warning against wildfires, because everything's so dry here, it'll catch with a spark or two. Right, so we got the fire up and going. Always like to use a ring of stones just to stop the fire spreading, if you don't want it to. And time to get right down into that dirt box and see if we can find some clay. I invented sand slope sliding. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Sand slope sliding I invented just at that time. And I'm a bit of a one for inventing sports. I invented motorcycle kite flying just around the corner from here. And if you'd like to see a video on that, well, you'd probably have to go to my channel and already subscribe. So the water level here goes up and down quite significantly throughout the year as the water is used for, I'm guessing, irrigation, amongst other things. So there's quite a few places where you see something like this. You can see some sort of clay-like substance. I have no idea if it's going to work with that sand in it or not. And I took myself closer to the water's edge, and there you see it. Less sand, more clay-like stuff. So there are lots of these pots lying around, and these, I believe, are burial pots that have been disturbed by the ever rising and falling water level. So you can find the lid or plate type, bowl type thing like this very easily. Filled it with clay, and here's some I've dried out by the fire. You can see it's a bit more malleable and holds its form more. So I tried to put some of the finest sand I could find in it. And here we are. Look at that. Whoa. What an absolute work of art. Little grainy. And I realise now I haven't smoothed the sides and there's loads of cracks in it. And apparently what happens with clay is that the water inside it, as it's fired, expands and turns into steam and tries to escape through all the cracks. And it can cause your pottery to fail. I wasn't too worried about that. I was more kind of interested just to try it and see if the clay that I'd found was actually going to fire and actually going to set hard. So I put it on that brick, shoved it in the middle of the fire that I'd let die down, and then I built it back up around the brick because I didn't want the clay pot to get crushed or smushed in any way. Anyway, seemed to be going quite well. I realised that the clay may or may not be the perfect stuff for making pots, but it was actually quite good for using as mortar on my stone circle. So I set to running up and down, getting more clay, and building up my fire circle. The theory being that if the walls of the stone walls of the fire circle are higher, it would be a bit more like a chimney. It would draw air in through the bottom if I could leave a hole at the bottom. And it would also protect it from the wind, so the area inside would get hotter.
Cracked. Pretty severely cracked.
Yeah. I cracked the pot, but it did come out hard. So it had kind of like, I was going to say set, but it's not set, is it? It fired. Fixed? I don't know. What do you say in clay? Comments are the place to put your answer. Anyway, it hadn't gone quite as well as I'd hoped, but I had learned something. So it was time for a bit of lunch and to consider my next move. Now, I didn't like how grainy and full of sand the first batch of clay was, and returning to my primary source of research, primitive technology, I realised that perhaps ash might be a better substitute to mix in with the clay. So I set about two things: building the chimney higher and mixing together a new batch of clay. And to be honest, even though my pot had cracked the first time round, I just enjoyed the area. It's a lovely spot. And here, look at this, a huge stone, which I think would work very well as a, I'm going to say lintel. I think it's called lintel. The big bit across the top, which allows a fireplace to have a gap. So there it is. So this is my hole where the air is going to flow in, and if I build the walls up around it, it will create an updraft.
And that's what it came out like. Beautiful, right? Nah, I'm kidding. Just clean this one.
Yeah, hilarious. See that joke there? So that inside there is my roughly put together second
like a little mini
cut pot thing. I'm going to put it inside two of these ceramic plates that I found. The idea being that I can then build a fire up around it and on top of it, hopefully making the inside much hotter than the first time around. So having mixed it with ash and hopefully it getting much hotter, perhaps that will be the secret to success second time round. I built the fire up loads so that I could go for a little walk and discover this little beauty. Oh, I'm sure she's sailed the 7 seas. But we might have to make a video taking that boat out and see if it actually floats. That'd be fun. And there's my pot buried in the embers there, I think doing quite well. And we also fired it for a lot longer. Gave me a chance to have some noodles. Yeah, we fired it all night, kept the fire raging. Again, hoping that the extra temperature would help. And campfires are just fun, aren't they? There's something mesmeric. You could almost fall into one. Like my second batch of noodles did. But never fear. I had a third batch of noodles. You've always got to have enough noodles to go around. Anyway, it was time to turn in. So I left the fire going. It was pretty safe inside my chimney thing that I'd built. And I slept terribly because I elected to sleep in just a sleeping bag liner, which was suggested by Big Heath. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Not at this time of year anyway. Perhaps in the summer when it's roasting out here, it would make more sense. Here we go. Let's have a look at what the second pot did. Look at that. Perfectly protected inside. Oh. Well, I've got to say that's not altogether too surprising. So I collected some ash for next time. Collect all this ash and then we're going to make a better clay recipe next time. Actually, subsequent research suggested that a big part of the problem was the moisture levels in the clay. I had only kind of put a cursory passing effort into drying the clay out before I fired it, and that is fatal for clay. The water inside it expands into steam and escapes through any cracks, which is why it can fail. But I had made 2 cup-ish type shapes. The clay was harder afterwards, so I think the success is in there somewhere. I was most happy with my chimney that I built, so we're going to have to go back and try again. Why not join me on that adventure? We'll have a right old time.